Welcome to She's Black,
where we keep it real, raw, and relentless
about all things black women.
Welcome to She's Black,
where we keep it real, raw, and relentless about all things black women. Thank you all for joining us for another episode of the She's Black show. Remember, go ahead, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe, and please share this episode. Also, catch us on your favorite platform, your favorite podcast platform, and you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at the She's Black Show as well. So make sure you catch up with us in all of those spots. Also visit us at www.theshesblackshow.com. All right, so today's episode is Black independence in the music industry. We will be discussing independent music, the music industry, and the effect that the music industry in its current state has on both independent artists as well as just black music in general. So it'll be a really good discussion with our special guest that we have today, Orion, the Rhythmatic Word. He's an artist and producer, of course, on the independent side of the music industry, and obviously he's black. So he will be representing today, and we'll have a really good discussion about black independence in the music industry. Today we do have a sponsor. Our sponsor for today is See the Vision LLC. It is a multimedia creative outlet created or founded by Chris Jenkins. He is an amazing artist, a visual artist, as well as a photographer, a poet. I mean, just a creative of all sorts and a beautiful spirit. So make sure you check for him, check for his business, and catch him on or at See the Vision TV on YouTube and Instagram, and See the Vision LLC on Facebook, and that is Vision spelled VIZION.
Yeah, check them out.
Make sure I said that right. I believe that's correct. So check for See the Vision. All right, y'all. So we're going to get into this today, and we'll just have a little casual discussion about black independence in the music industry. I think it's a really good conversation to have. And of course, this is about all things black women, so we'll have some moments that we just speak on black women in the industry as well. You want to take a moment to share anything about yourself, what you do?
Greetings, y'all. I am Orion. I am a music producer, recording, mixing engineer. As far as music, I'm a writer, songwriter, vocalist. I do what's called the Rhythmatic Word. And the Rhythmatic Word, I kind of label it that because, you know, with so many genres that's out there, and when people talk about hip hop, or they talk about rap, or they talk about rhythm and blues and things of that nature, you know, I'm old school. I like to, you know, back in the day, they didn't have all of those labels. People were just creative. If it was Stevie Wonders, if it was your Marvin Gaye's, if it was, you know, Aretha Franklin's, it was so many that was just doing, it was just considered soul music. So I label what I do the Rhythmatic Word because it's rhythms, tones, and words, you know, put together, you know, in multiple ways or different ways. So that's what I do. I try to take the positive messages or just the messages. I make what's called activist anthems. That's what I like to call them. You know, activist anthems. You know, things that are gonna, you know, help people if they activate. If they're social activists, if they political activists, if they're, you know, health activists, whatever. You know, I try to make a soundtrack for that. That's how I visualize when I create. So yeah, that's what I do.
All right, and I did not take a moment to introduce your host. I mean, y'all know us by now, right? But I'm gonna take a moment. Of course, my name is Kibet, and this is India, and of course, we are your hosts of the She's Black Show. And today we have both of our little ones. So I have with me Shy, and India has Snow. So all of us will be joining a family thing today. All right. So let's just go right into it. First of all, first thing I want to talk about, I think for a lot of people who have come up to this era's music, they don't know the difference. Obviously, we've seen music, at a different level or different space. And for those of you who are watching who may be a generation ahead of us, you've seen music at even a greater space. And in our short lives, music has changed. Music has changed a lot, as all things do. All things change. That's just the nature of living, of life. But let's talk about what we've seen and change. Primarily, I'm going to say, well, let me ask this question first. We all say music has changed. The industry has changed. Do you all, India, do you listen to like a variety of music, or is there a particular genre that you like the most, or that you tend to stick to?
I used to listen more of a variety. I can say I like all, but lately it seems like more of the stuff I listen to is either like rap or something like Lucky Day or things like that. Like how do you pronounce the name? Sonor, S-N-O-R. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. You know that song she sang? I want you around. How do you pronounce her name?
You mean
Snow Allegra?
Allegra Snow.
That's
yeah,
what it is.
Allegra.
Okay.
Snow Allegra.
So like pretty much the genres I've just been sticking with lately. I ain't really been listening too much. Cause like one thing is like I used to listen to music more when I drove more, but since I work from home now, I really don't have a chance to listen to music as much as I want to.
Okay.
So I don't really have a chance to listen to music like that right now.
All right. And for you, would you say you like just all genres of music, or particular ones that you just vibe to more so?
I'm really into a lot of the Afro beat, you know what I mean? The African or island vibes, in the music. Your Burna Boys and even some rap music from there. Sampa, the great, female MC who I really check for. It's a plethora of artists, you know what I mean, that but I like rhythms. I like the vibe. So right now it's hard, to be honest, to listen to a lot of the Western music, like the rap music, a lot of the R&B, a lot of things. It can be a challenge for me. You know what I mean? Like I said, because for my generation it's different. I know that's what you mentioned. There's a.
Why do you feel like there's a challenge? Like what exactly are you like? What you saying is like different?
Well, the messages or how it went from when like, so me being born in the 70s, I'm kind of telling my age, but mid 70s, and then growing up listening a lot in the 80s, early 90s, a lot of the music was in a different space. With like R&B was at a different space, hip hop, a lot of things was at a different space in how they would, like I said, I'm a writer as well with the music, so a lot of ways they would convey messages to express their love or to express what they were as artists or what they were bringing to the table.
Made more sense back in the day. Now it's like people just get a whole bunch of lines, just
yeah,
put it together.
Yeah,
There's no real story in this all.
It's weird. Some of it seems like you have to be somewhat intoxicated to to let it go by or to let it pass. But it's just different for me. It's different for me. I like the island vibe.
So you're well, okay. So in general, you like the island vibe, but okay. So I'll just speak for me. So for me, yes, this age of music is different, but when it comes to music in general, not specifically to this particular time frame of music,
Gotcha.
I would say, genre wise, I mean, I came up in neo soul. Definitely came up in neo soul. I didn't come up a hip hop head. I didn't come up, with rap being a big thing for me. I didn't come up with R&B in general being big for me. It was specifically neo soul, and I kind of went out from there into various. It kind of took me on a journey to the hip hop that I like is relatable to neo soul, or even they've paired with, or even the R&Bs that I liked were a step off from neo soul artists. So
Yeah.
I would say neo soul kind of opened the door, but because of the nature of what neo soul music is, I got exposed to so many genres of music, so many different types and feels and flavors of music that I think had I not gone through that particular gateway, I wouldn't have. So I like some country music, a good bit of it. You know, there's country music I can rock with, blues that I love. I like some soft rock. I can't say I'm not a metalhead. If I had to say, if I had to say, there's a particular genre of music that I do not rock with.
See, I grew up in the TRL era, so I actually like grew up on pop music and R&B also.
Right. Yeah, I think all genres for me, I mean folk music, there's folk music that I can get down with. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So I'm saying that to say, like, I love music. I just, if you really just, you might catch me at a location and a song be playing and I know the lyrics to it and it'll be like, I never think she know that song, and I know it because I love music. Yeah. So but with that being said, because that was to lead into the spotlight on the state of the music industry and how it specifically has affected more what I would call or consider historically black genres of music. We all know R&B now. It don't matter what race you are, what you look like. You can be a dope R&B, black R&B artist. You know what I'm saying? Same for hip hop. You know what I'm saying? There's various hip hop artists of all colors, complexions, nations, creeds, whatever. However, historically, that was black music. Historically, R&B was black music. Historically, hip hop was black music. Historically, neo soul and so on and so forth were black music. I mean, if we were to be 100% honest. Taking metal out of it. taking metal out, honestly. And yodeling, probably. Most forms of music historically were black. But I'm speaking on what we would say heavily concentrated in modern or contemporary era. You know what I'm saying? Post mid-century or mid-century and beyond, considered black music. And that would have been heavily hip hop, R&B, heavily would have been considered black music. Right. So I want to talk on the state of the music industry and how it has particularly affected hip hop and R&B.
To me, right now, the state of music from my perspective, from what I've observed, there's a lot of we're in need of much more what's the word, care and tact behind the microphone. You know what I mean? As far as what's being said, sometimes I feel, this is my opinion, I feel like a lot is being taken for granted, so to speak, since it's much easier for many people to get into a studio and to say, oh, I have a studio, I'm gonna record, I'm gonna make a song and post it immediately. It used to be where there was it feels like much more time was given in songwriting and song creating, and where if it was a mood that you wanted to project, if it was the development of artists, let's say in the music at one point, where before they had the digital recording as it is now, where they would have to rehearse so much to do everything in one take. Everything would have to be done in one take. The vocals, the music, the whole nine. So people were they were passionate about getting things a particular way. Passionate. They knew they had to get the feeling of that song. If they're singing it, they had to get the everything in it. And so now it's a lot of. It went from the love of the music to the love of trends and following the dollar, like whatever's selling or whatever's So this, to me, that like the state of music is more so. It's difficult because when it's a lot of gray space, because there's some of us who remember that particular process of creation, of of certain levels of passion. And I'm not saying that people don't have passion for what they're doing right now, but just even the reasons that songs are made, or the how many songs are made and being just pushed out there. Like a lot of stuff get, people make some songs now even just to say, oh, because I want to go viral. You know what I mean? I want to go viral, and it don't have to make sense or anything.
I think the difference. I think the difference between then and now is like before people. I remember Beyonce had said this once. People don't really make albums no more.
That too.
They make a bunch of singles to just make money off of them. Like it used to be. We used to be excited to get the album, see what kind of artwork was going to be with it.
That's
like
it.
the whole album
That's it.
made you have a certain kind of feel. You can
That's
kind
it.
of tell what the
Exactly.
artist went through when they made that album. But now it seems like they just make a whole bunch of singles. They be everywhere. Like, there is no real feeling in it. And it just does not convey like a certain feeling no more. It's like you just... When it used to be more about the art, I feel like people wanted to, get into it because they felt like, okay, well, I can sing. This is my talent. I want to, live off my talent. I think we're at a point now where people, they want to be, their thing is, they want to use their talent, but the goal is really to be famous.
Right.
And to be known more than they're focusing on their music. Like, I'm trying to convey this certain type of art or this certain type of feeling through the music. I don't think it just has that feeling. Because if they did, I don't think they'll be putting out music that fast. Because if you're really passionate about your art, you're not putting out good art. You ain't putting out good artwork that fast, like just like that.
It was taking time. You would take time, and then even you would even have certain producers that work with artists, and they work together for a while to form that relationship to even to develop their own sound and their uniqueness. So I definitely agree.
They say with Michael Jackson, they said like with his music, they said like he was like almost like he tried to be a perfectionist with everything. And we see like he was a great entertainer. He was a great artist because he wanted everything to sound perfect. I think people just be rushing so much now.
A lot of people. And then you have the help of this digital era with auto tunes and I'm not saying to knock it. I'm just saying that now you have where what would take, like if you in the past when you didn't have access to those those digital aids, it was you. When people heard you, that's what they heard. They heard what you brought forth, or if it was a group of people, what we brought forth. And then now, man, you can hit at a button. You can have a whole chorus behind you. You can have, it can correct notes that you sing. If you may miss some notes, you can correct notes. You can do a lot of things. So when we're talking about music and the state of it, to me, a lot of that is a part of that shift. That especially in black music for sure.
So So for me as a creative, I'm not a musician, but as a creative and I'm a lover of music, I can appreciate the I'm going to say digital technology advancements in anything really, in any industry. However, I think the balance is the issue. How much we rely on the technology in a creative state, when it comes to things that are creative, how much we rely on technology. I'm very much analog when it comes to me as a creative. As a painter, there are so many people that are putting out digital artwork that's dope, that I respect all day long, because it still takes work to do it. Yeah. It's not like you're just pulling these shapes or these different things from a digital platform and just making art. You're still having to create it. But I prefer a brush and a canvas, to a iPad and a magic pen or something of that nature, right? But by the same note, I can respect people who do their work digitally. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And even I would say in the music today, at some point there had to have been something that shifted the expectation from the talent to just something beyond just the access. Because the reality of it is you could give 1 million people access to create something, and if that creation is not entertained by people, it'll burn off. So people are entertaining the I guess the lack of like that same dedication to putting out music in the way they did when they didn't have all the technological advancements. People are still entertaining it. People are still, listening to it. People are still allowing it to occupy a certain space and time. So I guess for me, what do you think drives, because I mean, yes, the state of the music in itself is, it's not as, there's clearly not as much passion, not as much energy and time and dedication, not as much sacrifice. And, depending on whose ear is listening, not as much talent. My particular ear would say you don't have to have as much talent today to get yourself out there.
No,
Not as you used to have. But by the same token, what is allowing for that?
I think it's a age thing. I think like the young generation or this generation, if you grow up where you have all of the rapid access or digital platforms where you can put stuff out, and you have all this assistance, well, I would say with the programs that can help you. You don't know, you weren't alive at the time, or may not have experienced as an artist. You haven't lived long enough to see the difference. You haven't lived long enough to say, okay, if we put together this project, then it's going to take all these resources, like more resources to come together, and more time to to work on the songs, to to develop the ideas, to craft the material and the art. It's you have a generation that's microwave, even coming up in a
microwave.
Everything. You have it's
you gotta put
they haven't lived long
like
enough.
2 years.
You know what I mean?
That's from the artist though. The artist hasn't lived long enough, but they have an audience. What created the audience? Like that.
I'm saying even the in my opinion, even the audiences, they haven't. If and it's a blessing if you have parents that still put you on to, those older music, or older. And I'm not just talking about 70s, 80s. I'm talking about 90s. Like I teach school. I teach young people in high school. And when I mention Lauryn Hill, a lot of them don't know. If I mention Sade, I mention certain.
Hold on, they don't know who Lauryn Hill
But
is.
to me, like a lot of their parents may not know. But my concern, I guess my question is, okay, the young people are a reflection of the current state. They are a reflection of where we're at.
Oh, yeah.
There was a transition.
Okay.
So who the gatekeepers? The moment that it turned, and it didn't turn in their era. It turned honestly in ours.
Okay.
So that's the question.
You don't think it was social media, just the access to
the advent of social media time? Yeah. Okay.
Because it turned before social media.
What do you like? Talking about the type of music?
Yes, in my opinion, it was music was on its way to where it's at well before now.
Okay.
And at some point, number one, this is my personal opinion. Number one, for music to be, for anyone's music, no matter this age frame, or you could go back as far as we can remember and what we remember our parents knowing, and old music that we enjoyed. I mean, I'll take it back to things like a chitlin circuit. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Okay. To where places where people traveled just in their little local, towns, and created their own little tours, and they played at this blues club, this jazz club, this blah blah blah. And, you know, that's how they made their living until they were picked up by a label like Motown or so, you know, so on and so forth that would invest in them. Okay. Even in that time frame, right? For them to become big, and when I say big, I don't mean wealthy and rich. I mean, where they can tour beyond the chicken circuit. Chitlin, that's a chicken. Beyond the Chitlin circuit, where they could get beyond, you know, a 200-mile radius of where they're at. They had to have resources behind them.
Okay.
And that's when they made it big, when they got those resources behind them. And so, you know, what our grandparents listened to, major record labels like Motown controlled that.
Okay.
You know, yes, we could pick whichever artist we wanted, whichever artist we liked, whoever record we bought, and we decided to play in our house. We could pick, but the choice of who to pick from,
was governed.
Wasn't
the big labels.
And so at some point, you know, it was even, I'll say, when I was 20 years old, everybody didn't just, when I was 20 years old, everybody didn't just have a studio that they could just go in and pop out music and put it on social media.
Ooh, so many people. Not everybody got one in their house now.
Right. So you know, that wasn't easy access.
Correct.
People weren't using, back then it was MySpace. At that point, yes, it was some music put up on MySpace, but for the most part, you were just now learning how to meet people that you didn't know immediately.
Gotcha.
So it was not a platform that that was pumping music into our faces. And so, but we were still listening to certain types of music that I think birthed some of the music today.
Okay.
And so for me, I don't think the state of the music, I mean, you know, I understand what y'all are saying, but I don't think the state of the music rests in the individual artists or the individual listeners as the responsibility for the state. What I mean by that is, now for the listeners, in my opinion, as listeners, we have more responsibility for the state of the music than the artists do.
Okay.
And not the true artists, but the people that are putting out music, you know, that are putting out music that our kids are hearing. They're putting out music because they're being allowed to. They're being allowed to because we're being told this is your selection to buy from. And instead of boycotting music, period, we're picking something. It's like the lesser of two evils.
You think still today?
Absolutely. I think consumer. I'm not saying us. I'm saying the consumer. But not only just today, we birthed it. We did it. We allowed it to happen. Meaning, if we're given 5 artists to choose from, and 3 of them, you know, you got some major artists. I'm not gonna name names necessarily,
Gotcha.
but there are some major artists whose quality of music was very different from what we have been accustomed to hearing.
Okay.
But if they put out 5 new artists at one time and pushed them heavily, and none of it was necessarily to our liking, we just found the one that was the easiest to listen to.
Okay.
And that's what we bought into. Or the one that the DJ played in the club and somebody came up with a dance with, and you weren't entertaining if you didn't learn that dance and you just learned to rock with it. You know what I'm saying? And it became a thing. Like, in my mind, yeah, the industry as a whole, the big part of the industry, the beast behind what's pushing it, said, hey, we're going to put these 10 different artists or these 10 different type of songs out, and it's like an experiment. And we're going to make them have to select from this group of artists. And this is our method of getting it into their ears. And
like controlling the radio.
Right, and the club DJs and all of that. And so we get into a space and we just settle for whatever we settled for.
Gotcha.
And then from there stemmed a smaller experiment and another experiment, which was really a larger experiment, but it was more subtle. The experiment became more and more subtle until we failed to recognize that it's an experiment at all. And we just bought into it. I don't think it's today's artists that are the issue. I don't think it's the young people, the young people as a consumer that are the issue. I think they've gotten to the place where music has been multiplied at the level that it's at because those of us who did know good music allowed the opportunity for music that wasn't so good to have a spot.
I feel you. I feel you.
I get what you're saying.
I feel that. I guess I can. Yes, from I can see, I can understand and respect what you're saying from that side of the coin, like the responsibility of that. Maybe this is just a thought. Maybe it was a situation where those of us who knew didn't want to judge, others who are creating music. Like as the time shifted, when new artists were coming, or a certain type of music was being birthed, that instead of saying like, no, that's not good quality, or that's not as is not as passionate, or it's not as to start that judging vernacular, we just kind of just say, well, we're gonna just stick with what we like, whatever that generation is doing. I don't know what they're doing, kind of, but I'm gonna just stick. I stick to what I do, and then it developed where if kind of like if you don't say anything, then.
I think there are those of us who did that, but I think there are those of us who actively bought in. And what I mean by it, there are those of us who actively went to the club and learned this dance, learned these words. You know what I'm saying? Bought into the culture, which allowed for the promotion, the steady promotion of that music to people.
I feel that.
I don't think everyone was just silent. I'm not saying we were judgmental. You don't have to be judgmental to not buy into something. You can just keep moving. And if it doesn't get attention,
I feel that.
I get what you're saying. There's been certain times. There's been certain times where like they'll play a certain song on the radio. It'll be like, oh, so released a song. This is their new song, and I would hear it and I'd be like, I don't like this song. Then they'll play it on the radio so much, play it on commercials. So after a while, you catch yourself singing the song, and it's like, well, now it's kind of catchy, because you done heard it so much, but initially you didn't like it. But it's like they done forced you to like it because they're playing it so much. It's getting so much play. It's got so much power behind it. Like the people are pushing it so much, so they're making you like it because they're playing it. They're like trying to force you. Like, so I get what you're saying.
That's
because that happens a lot.
That's a big part.
So like this song ain't as good, and they just keep on playing
it. And so I guess that even when we're talking about speaking to the state of music, at that point it's bigger than that. You know what I mean? If we're talking about who controls the major promotions of the music, who controls the video or the TV stations, who controls the radio stations, who controls the large venues that the artists that are going to be pushed in.
Okay, so are we talking about are you basically saying the record companies are the one that did this?
I think that's a good spot to get into. So, like what you're saying, as far as the actual industry, the music industry, the record labels themselves, having responsibility in the state of music and trying to control what we're able to hear, right? So, I say the record labels, but I think it's bigger than that even. But one thing that I know about anytime for me the word control is utilized when people are attempting to control a thing. It is with purpose. It is with an agenda. You only control something if you are trying to achieve a particular end result, which is what we refer to as an agenda. You get into a point. And so, in that essence, what then would be the necessity to control what people are receptive to when it comes to music? Why? What would be the need for that?
What the end game would be?
Yeah, what's the
end game? Actually, sit there and think about.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I do.
Or I can reword
Because-
it. How does controlling what people, how could controlling what people listen to benefit anyone?
I really
Well, it can help. It can make people think a certain kind of way when it's
Right.
and make people not think outside of the box or, express themselves the way that they really feel if they control certain stuff.
tones
Like
in the
like your more
music.
conscious artists, they really don't get as much playtime as ones who don't really go deep into their music. They don't.
Absolutely, because the message, even with music, the repetition in certain things, the tones that's used in the music, a lot of that. Bless you. A lot of that is controlling. A lot of that is, controlling the masses. If you're pumping, when you're talking about just media, not just record labels, when you talk about media
As a whole.
as a whole, you're looking at you can push propaganda, you can do
Like
you know,
the gaming
whatever-
industry
whatever-
right now. Like what's happening with the gaming industry, being able to put propaganda in the metaverse or in, being able to drop certain messages in games. And
I feel like how you said with the control thing, I feel like one example of there's kind of an agenda. One of the biggest artists right now when it comes to rap is Lil Baby.
Okay.
And when, Lil Baby makes awesome music, but, a lot of times his music be a lot getting money, getting, women and stuff like that. But when he, on his autobiography, when COVID hit, 2020, that was a rough year when it came to police brutality and stuff like that. They said that guy had that song, it was like Bigger Than Black and White. They say that song was #1 on so many platforms for so many weeks. He didn't even get I think he didn't get a Grammy nomination.
Right.
He didn't even get and it's like the people
For
who
top
won.
single.
He didn't even get nominated when his song. It was either nominated or won when his song was like sold out way more than all of those. Now I feel like that's one of the things we're like, okay, we're gonna push you as long as you doing what. So we said when you make something a little too conscious, then we gotta show you don't step out your place.
Yeah, keep people
Right.
keep it docile. Keep you docile so that things can continue to be the same. You know what I mean? Because with the music is very influential. Every shift. If you look at every shift that has taken place in culture, in our culture, or in the culture of different locations, it comes with the soundtrack. You know what I mean? The music, you can study the music of the culture
to understand the people in the
see
society.
what people
You're right about that.
prior to, even with James Brown and those, when I'm Black and I'm Proud, and Nina Simone and all of that. Look at what was you can look what was happening in the industry before then, or what was happening in the country.
Yeah.
And see with the music that they put out, why they was the message music that was coming, and a lot of things were happening, and then you can see
It's such a cycle. Life
Yeah.
life inspires music, and music then inspires life.
Absolutely.
And continues.
So to speak to what you're saying about, why would, if it is with this big bad wolf, or the industry, so to speak, if people would have an agenda, it would be, to me, when you listen to the music or what's coming out and what's promoted, like you just mentioned, is to keep a people docile, to keep you focused on, drugs, and for the most part, focus on drugs, focus on, promiscuity, focus on crime, focus on, and then the braggadocio I have, you don't, and and then if you walking around with a bunch of money and people getting jewelry snatched off of them or getting robbed, it encourages, a reason.
Because it all can go back to money. Because it all can go back to money. Because if we stay in a pump, we stay breaking laws and stuff, then we stay going to jail.
That's
we
it.
also know they make money off jails.
doubt.
They make money off you paying fines, probation,
All
all
that.
kinds of stuff like that.
What is it, $50,000 a room? As far as the prison cell in certain places.
So then, and this is me, and I can be extra sometimes, but when I hear things like it's about money, my mind automatically goes to the idea, the reality, not the idea, the reality that money is illusory, right?
Okay.
So then, then it is about controlling your energy and your time.
Okay.
And for me, it's like, you know how you can be put in an induced coma?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a self-inflicted or induced slavery.
No doubt.
Because money is illusory, so money don't matter.
It really is.
Money, but if you keep going to jail, or you keep shooting, you keep killing, you keep getting buried, or you keep having children that can't be supported, you keep doing whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then the mothers of these children, or the grandmothers,
Mm-hmm.
or the fathers, grandfathers,
Mm-hmm.
aunts, uncles, that are paying to bury the child,
Mm-hmm.
they potentially, they have to work and sacrifice what they've saved,
Mm-hmm.
so they have to work harder to save more
Mm-hmm.
to bury the child, or they go into debt and now they are indebted to someone,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to work or do whatever they need to do to pay down that debt, or someone else inherits it to bond the child out, or to some people give up their homes, their land that they've purchased.
Yeah,
be
so many
able
parents
to-
think about put their houses up to get their kids out of.
to
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
afford all of these things, but not just all of the things that we see as negative, not just burial, not just bail, not just caring for uncared for children, but the promotion of name brands.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody want a red bottom. You know what I'm saying? Everybody want a particular sneaker. Everybody want, you know what I'm saying? There's a theory out about Kanye West and Yeezy and that brand as a whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because for me, what that brand, what Yeezy's brand represents to me is paradoxical. It is him making a statement on one side to say, hey, you fools will buy anything. And that's not knocking what he's put out, but I can literally get a piece of cloth, sew this side and this side together, leave a hole up here and a hole down here, and cut 2 holes in the side, and you can stick your arms out, and your mama can make that for $2. But because it's my brand, you gonna pay $400 for it, and y'all gonna buy it, whether you can really afford it or not.
And I can see Kanye doing something like that.
It shows that, but it also, by the same token, says y'all out here buying these people's garbage,
Did you see? Did you? You got a point on that.
and that's life. That is what, in my mind, like when you say, oh, it comes down to money, but for me, money is illusory, so it comes down to self-inflicted enslavement. You are moving further and further away from freedom by buying into what you think freedom is.
I feel that.
If we promote that you could have, you should have, this is what this is, then when you buy into that, you step further and further back from true freedom.
You're right about that. You saw that, I don't know, I'm not going to say the post is real because I didn't really research it, but I saw a post that said that Kanye West went into one of his stores, or his clothes.
He went into the Gap store.
Yeah, and they had his clothes hanging up, and he got mad because he wanted the clothes in a bag because he wanted people to see how it feels like to be homeless, to have to go through bags to find your clothes. And I'm like, really? But I can see Kanye doing stuff like that.
And you're going to go in that bag, and you're still going to pay full price for it.
I got to dig through clothes and find something to spend a bunch of money on.
Yeah, wow.
But that reality, but for me, you know, this is the question I do have for y'all. If in fact, the music industry is being utilized as a method of control, right? Then who or what is the benefactor?
Who benefits?
Yeah.
Who
or what
it definitely
entity?
ain't us.
Well, I think
It's not us.
those who we would consider the elite, you know, or who this society considers the elite. That 1% that controls, have been controlling 99% of the resources for years. Kind of like with the establishment of this country, you know, I think they would be the only ones that would benefit to keep control, to keep things the way they have been for so long. You know what I mean? I think what you mentioned about what you mentioned about money being illusory and people still paying the full prices of things and whatnot. I think that comes from a self-worth thing. You know what I'm saying? That's a, people thinking if they promote music or they promote entertainment that keeps you docile, that even put super or what they would call superstars in front of you, and you say, hey, well, I'm not them, they are larger than life, I want to be like them, I want to wear what they wear, I want to say whatever slang they're saying, and a lot of them are promoting they're promoting the red bottoms, they're promoting the black cars, that even in their songs, they're promoting those things. And if I have low self-esteem, or I may not even have what's considered low self-esteem, but I may
not see your
Now-
value within yourself outside of how people have branded value.
right.
Now,
And
one
so I'm reaching now for the songs that say this. I'm reaching for the movies that say this. I'm reaching for, because now now another thing. Videos, even technology for the videos that go with the songs now have a lot more, or would be what one would consider a lot more enticing to pull you in. Also, the imagery that's coming along with the music, in comparison to what was in the past. It's a lot of things, that a lot more that's happening. So,
maybe ultimately the people who are really benefiting, I'm not gonna say ultimately, but it could be the banks also, because you remember you said when it comes to, think about it, when it comes to credit scores, that whole system of credit scores isn't even really old.
Yeah, 1980.
Think about it. During that time, music
Oh,
did
yeah.
start to change, and now everybody wants to live up to a certain image that this popular music put out. But to live up to that certain image, a lot of times you gotta be in debt to a lot of stuff. Well, I'm gonna buy this house that I pretty much can't afford. I'm gonna get this car I pretty much can't afford. I'm gonna get this card, I'm gonna try to pay on it, but I'm probably gonna max it out trying to get this. Or I'm gonna try to pull some more credit on it. Maybe I can get this. A lot of people I know have a lot of loans, and they're using other loans to pay off this loan and stuff like that. So like, you're coming out with so much money. A lot of us are living beyond our means, just kind of barely make it. Cause with the 350 that they gave out recently, it's weird that a lot of people was able to get this 350 when I could have sworn I've been seeing some of these people y'all been to different countries and stuff like this. So it's like, what you doing with that 350 when I thought you had a whole bunch of money? So is it you haven't been living up to this lifestyle that you've been pushing on? You got this designer, you got this red bottom, you got stop. You got this bundle of hair, you got all of this stuff to look like you're successful, but if you're eligible for that 350, you're labeled as low income. So something's not right.
So again, I think it's the elite. I think it's to keep a system operating. If I and some may consider this a reach, but if it's from a country that has had, as far as slavery is concerned, and then saying, okay, now this is looked at as too harsh, we need to figure out another way to do it instead of chattel slavery. And then we say, okay, you say, oh, you free the slaves, and then it becomes sharecropping, where the people still going to the same plantations, but you're just giving them a little something to eat. And then it becomes fighting for rights, or I know jumping up many years, but then it comes to civil rights to say, okay, at least I want to be able to, have the same things that you have, or appear to have and at the same time, it's a creation of a value system that's that could be as illusory as money, the values of what you're discussing. And then now, you have where they'll say, I've heard people say, people of color are at the best place that they've ever been. You got more millionaires and more of this that you ever been. But
Which
that
is
would be,
awesome.
but that would
Within their system.
within the system, that would be like 2% or 3%. You know what I mean? It's not equality. It'd be like, you're at a point where you had nothing, but now 3% of y'all You know what I'm saying? Within the whole system of things are millionaires now, or this particular percentage are doctors, or this particular percentage, and we're supposed to be comfortable with that and feeling like that since now, this is my opinion, that since we have something, or we can look in what we think we have more, that's equal, or that's it's touchy. It's touchy, but and so I think the music reflects that. I think it's diamonds. It's very few of us, like you said, it's very few of us that actually have those resources. A lot of people are, faking it. They faking it. A lot of people are check to check. You know what I'm saying? And it's very few that have all of the resources that's being promoted in the music or promoted in the videos and promoted. You hear about things where people renting cars. They renting the cars that they drive, and they're renting even the jewelry that they got on. They going to award shows, renting the dress or renting the outfit for a moment and then taking it back. All kind of stuff is just.
This could be a reach. But I kind of feel like also when you see all the stuff now, because like social media is a beast right now.
Mm-hmm.
You see all of this stuff and you see and like, well, dang, they got this success. What am I doing? I know I'm busting my butt. I know I'm working every day. How they doing this? And it's like they barely be at work. And a lot of times it makes a lot of people depressed. There's so many people dealing with depression and they're on a lot of kind of medications right now because they're like, oh, we'll take this to make you feel better. And then that goes to the pharmaceutical companies making money. So I feel like it's so many ways that will like you feel caught up in some kind of way where they can make money off of you.
Now I think and this is for a whole nother episode, which we will do. But I think this comes for me back to a spiritual place.
You're right.
Because if we are so distracted and trying to live the best we can in this physical life, meaning go on a trip, dress up this way, look this way, appear this way, you know what I'm saying? We pour so much into the physical that we are negating our spirit,
Right.
which is much more powerful.
Right.
Which, you know what I'm saying, could move much more. And in all honesty, that was the thing that was most feared when we were in quote unquote slavery. Was the power we could have spiritually. But that's for a whole nother topic. But I do want to discuss, and we'll transition into this, but wanting to discuss how the independent artists or independent music could shift that dynamic, if it is possible.
I think it's a lot of them have been growing now. A lot of major artists, like with Cardi B, like before she signed to a company, she was independent for a long time because she wanted control of her music, and she was like, "Well, I'm making all this money just by myself." And what the other dude named Jonah Lucas or something like that, like they're making Jonah Lucas, like they're making so much money without being signed to a label, and they're like, well, what's the purpose of the label? I feel there are a lot of independent artists that are starting to shift it because they're seeing like, well, instead of giving them control of my music, this with social media it's a negative to social media, but there's a huge positive you can do also by getting your music out there yourself.
That's it.
So I feel like it's an awesome thing with I think independent artists are doing awesome now.
That's right.